Mean.
I like it.
Alright. Hear me now? Anyone?
Yes, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Sorry. Everybody goes silent.
Alright, well,
Just pretend he's not here.
Just gaslighting Garrett about his connection.
Classic.
Dicks.
Okay, so last time I forgot to do another summary. I was gonna do the summary, but I got caught up. I had like 4 paragraphs just talking about what Johoff looked like when he was majestic and giant that I just like, you know what I mean? Like I got sidetracked. I ended up writing a whole fan fiction on it. Anyways, so in the last episode, you guys finally tracked down the Yakuba at his lair and set Terran free. I mean, you guys slayed him in combat. You were prepared. You had everything ready. All of your spells, corresponding and synergizing well. And yeah, I mean, he was almost like a joke. So, just to pick up from last time, as Yakuba fell into the water, his corpse emitting a kind of acidic blood into the water. You saw it bubble and kind of ooze, and as you guys kind of gathered around Terran to check on him to see how he was doing, you would notice now that out of the water where the dragon's body was, kind of bleeding, all of these bright flowers and vines and other beautiful plants have started to spring up rapidly. It's almost as if the Feywild has kind of manifested itself here, and all of the little flowers and lilies and all that stuff have just grown big and bright and kind of intense. And the area around you seems to be kind of enhanced by the death of this dragon, as a bunch of life and energy seems to flood into the nature around you.
Does Vosner grow 50 feet tall and become a super druid?
He does not. People growing.
One of us get really big.
Exactly. Or anybody that Missile casted on. Missile, by the way, has just been furiously writing down notes on all of the things he saw Damon do in combat that he was unable to note while he was in the midst of battle.
Nice. Is there a way for me to go over to where Ever had died originally and just see? I know we were supposed to take the head of the dragon, but it obviously dissolved.
It's not entirely lost, and if you guys actually take the time to fish out the dragon from the water, it would take a few hours and be a little bit kind of caustic, but it's I would say you guys could do it. It's attainable. You could at least get the bones.
Yeah, some sort of a relic to show that we took down the dragon. Whether that's something of Ever's or the dragon bones itself.
Marcus is very interested in capturing the skull of the dragon so that we can, I don't know, ship it to Gunderland?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we need to go back. So we'll spend time doing that.
Yeah.
Get some dragon bones, maybe for some armor or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah, so actually Missile seems to know exactly how to do something like this and starts just kind of ordering people around to carry things, and he starts kind of disassembling the dragon and putting large pieces of it in his bag of holding.
Nice.
While we're taking the dragon apart, Terran will cut off one of the claws or and keep it tuck it into his bag.
Okay.
I mean, we gotta get that sweet dragon skull for our friend Leoward. That's gotta happen.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's attainable, and Missile, upon hearing your interest, begins, removing the skull and kind of like doing all of the stuff to strip it of the flesh. He's just applying all these ointments and stuff and ripping things apart. Very industrious.
This weird little guy.
I'll go over to Taryn while that's happening then, and just say, I'm really glad that you're safe. What were you, like, what did he have you here doing? I know you said there's not a lot that you remember, but what do you remember?
From the gaps, it almost feels like he was training me for something.
He looked a little bit, I don't know, sturdier than we left you. Seems like you maybe grew up a lot while we were gone.
I think I did, yeah. There's a new power in me that was unfamiliar.
Well, Evander always said that you were very powerful, so I'm sure he will help you sort it out.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
And he'll be glad to see you again. Everyone will. The masters were very worried.
Yeah, it'll be good to get back and away from. He kind of shivers a little bit and away from this place.
Yes.
Know what the dragon was training you for?
I think he wanted me to help him protect his woods.
Is there something else in these woods that we should know about?
I don't think so. I think it was just his territory, and he was interested in keeping it and growing it.
It makes me wonder about the young man that we first met here. Maybe he was not making those choices on his own either. Unfortunate.
It's strange.
Sorry to ask, but I don't know very much about dragonborns, Aaron. I think that the dragon being interested in you had anything to do with the fact that you're a dragonborn? Did you have some special connection together?
I think it did, and I think that's why he chose me.
What do you mean he chose you? Did he approach you about leaving us in return for the axe?
Yeah, I think I remember him coming to me afterwards. It's all blurry, but I think he said that he would let you all leave if I came with him.
Well, that was a big sacrifice, and I'm very grateful. But I hope next time that won't have to happen, and we can do it together rather than being separated.
Yeah, I hope so too. It seemed to work out, though.
It did, but perhaps we were lucky this time. Everyone fought really well. I think that we ought to try to fight like that more often.
Are Johoff and Hayeza close by?
Yeah, I mean, they're within earshot.
Okay. Yeah, and after Isolde says that, I say, and especially Masters Joe Hoff and Isaiah, they did an enormous amount of damage to the dragon, and I don't think we would have been able to do it without them.
True.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. But I probably would have been fucked if it wasn't for all your spells keeping me safe. So, you know, there's lots of praise to go around, I suppose.
Hey, is it just kind of responds with like kind of like the sup nod type of thing?
To Joe Hoff, DeMarcus says, well, that's what squads are for helping one another out. We consider you to be a member of this squad, Joe Hoff. You fight with us, you take risks with us. I think that you should be respected just like the rest of us by being in the squad.
Yeah, well, it's a nice sentiment, isn't it? But, I can't see myself ending up at that guild of yours.
Would you refuse an invitation?
Well, I suppose it depends on how many fools there are.
I understand.
Perhaps we should make our return then. If Mistle is done with the dragon. And I'll kind of like watch what he's doing, a little bit grossed out.
Yeah, he's
but
just
also
like laying out parts of the dragon very methodically, kind of in neat little rows, and he's just like been stripping the skull of all of its like scales and flesh, and like putting the scales nicely in a pile, and kind of just methodically working his way through it. He seems to be completely focused on that and not paying attention to anything you guys are saying.
Vosner's entranced by this.
Did you say something, Matt?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, is he saving the scales?
Yeah.
Nice.
I will try to hide my distaste and help him to see if it will make it go any faster.
Yeah, he kind of does a lot of like hand gestures towards you, like thinking that you understand what he needs you to do, but you're not doing it right because you don't. He's not communicating clearly, and he clearly is just kind of like not interested in your help.
Yep. I back off as soon as I realize that I'm actually making it happen slower.
Yep.
And I will walk over to DeMarcus. It was nice to fight beside you again. I know it's been a while.
Yes, you as well. Good to get out of a cell, for sure. And good to be, I suppose, trying to understand my new powers a bit better.
Did you say you were in a cell?
Yes, in Daramar I was imprisoned.
Ah, right.
So I'm just happy that everyone's alive and that we got Tyrion back, and he seems to be, all things considered, okay, Tyrion. And we were able to bury Leoward and get vengeance on the dragon, so I think all in all, it was very important for us to do.
Yes, agreed. It was good timing to have you back.
Yeah. I wish we could have found some of Leoward's old swords so that we could have marked his grave with them, but I suppose he'd be happy that we found these new items.
I feel like he strangely would be happy to know that somewhere, some criminal made a trade with a dragon and has his swords.
Marcus found that absolutely hilarious. Yeah, you're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a comfort to know that he's out there now. I don't think that he really fit into this world for a long time, and I think that he was unhappy here. I think he's where he belongs now.
He said something like that in a letter that he left us. I'll show it to you when we get back.
Yes,
He's in
I
the
would
barracks.
very much like to read that.
He never talked much about his life before. He told us a little bit about his brother, but I guess he had a love of some sort and lost her, and he essentially said that he hasn't ever really been the same. It's quite sad.
Marcus looks, I don't know if awkward is really the right word, but like very pensive when you start talking about that stuff. And so his response is basically, all of that is true, Hulda, and much more. I don't know how much of this to divulge yet. I have to pray on it. But we will talk about this later, just not now.
All right. I just kind of give you a bit of a strange look.
Yeah, you can tell DeMarcus
Perhaps
is like, yeah, he's really like thinking. He doesn't know what to do with the information that he has, and he's like still really thinking about what to do with it.
Is Taryn involved in this conversation, or can he hear it?
I would assume
Yeah, we got some bad news, Taryn.
Yeah, like as you guys are talking, putting it together, what happened?
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, I guess we notice you listening.
Yeah, and like
go ahead, Stan, sorry.
he's listening and like slowly putting the pieces together and like low key kind of like freaking out a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah, so DeMarcus is gonna like look at Izzy because DeMarcus hasn't even learned exactly what happened yet either. He just knows that he's dead, and that's why he kind of wants to defer the conversation because he thinks we're gonna do this kind of stuff later. But now we have to talk to Taryn about it.
I lost everyone for a second. Sorry.
No.
So did I.
So, you see Taryn, and I guess DeMarcus. We had gone to Gunderland, and we've carried out the mission there, and we returned with news of Ivar's death, and we solved yet another problem on the island. But when we were coming back, we were attacked by these strange pirates. They were warlocks, I think. They used very strange magic, but they had taken the Leventhorpe's ship, or ships, to attack us. And somehow they found out where we all were and decided to attack us. One of them summoned a very large, very angry-looking kraken that came to the side of the boat. And in battling this beast, our good friend E, of course, was front and center, and was eventually swallowed by the beast. That's how he lost his life.
I mean, we got him back.
That's true.
I tried to revive him the way that Chandri taught me, but it didn't work, so...
Marcus looks really bothered by like the way that Leord was killed, because he knew that like that would have just been a horrifying way for Leord, especially. So, and he looks at Isolde and he says, "Like I told you in your message to me, it was your spell didn't necessarily fail. His soul was unwilling to. I wouldn't blame yourself."
I understand. I got that same impression from the letter he had written. He, I guess, wrote it in the event that he eventually would be killed with his recklessness. And it did seem that once he went, he would not want to come back, so...
Yes, like I said, I don't think that quite fit on this world anymore, and it was probably time for him to go. I put my hand on Taryn's shoulder and I just say, "I'm sorry, Taryn, but I was gone too, so I just learned all these details at the same time as you. I only just returned. I couldn't have been there."
It takes Taryn a few moments to like gather himself, and then he says, "It seems that he went out how he would have wanted to, fighting some monster. But like he obviously has to like force each word out."
Mm. Yes, I think if there was a regret, it would be that he would not get to keep fighting large monsters. That he was not well equipped to fight.
He also would have regretted the fact that squids don't have skulls.
True. Very true. And his fear of deep water was very confirmed. But he's at peace now, I suppose.
We buried him on the way here, Taryn. Sorry. Stop
But we
by
can just...
his grave on the way back if you like.
Yeah.
I would like that, yeah.
And as you guys are kind of wrapping up this little conversation, Missile comes up and says, "Well, it's all assembled. We've put it all together." And he's like slapping his bag of holding, and you realize that like a large amount of the dragon that was like kind of laid out on the grass is now just gone.
Whoa.
Vosner is very impressed.
Are
Yeah.
we like standing over the horde that we acquired?
We'll just say like you kind of bagged it up and stuff. After Taryn led you back to those quarters. I don't have map stuff for those quarters, but
Okay, cool.
but
All
yeah.
in the bag.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys wanted to like equip that shit now or not. It's totally up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put the Ioun stone on.
Okay. It takes an hour technically to attune to something, so it would be something that happens in your first major rest, short or otherwise. But
Yeah, maybe we like narratively do it when we get back.
yeah, or to camp or something.
Yeah.
And so basically, the idea would be that you guys would head back to your little camp, and that would be kind of in the clearing where you guys buried E. If that's cool.
Mhm.
Okay.
There's nothing else like to search for here or anything.
No, I basically just gave you guys all the shit instead of making you search for it. And so you arrive back at the clearing, and it's evening, and you guys start to make your camp, and you know that you'll be back in Mossstone tomorrow in the evening.
Nice.
Austin.
Is there anything you'd like to do at this location?
Let me check my spells. Hang on a second.
Oh yeah, I don't know how to change my character sheet to level 7.
Since I have a 3rd level spell slot left, I'm gonna send a message to Helga, rather than Olga, and tell her that we have slayed the dragon and that we will send the skull of the dragon across the water soon.
Okay. You hear a response. Isolde, it is good to hear from you. I knew you would be able to defeat that dragon. We will await the skull, though we are sad that you're not joining it. Feel free to come back whenever you want.
Nice. I look pleased.
I just turned. I was like, so good news?
Hmm?
I turned to Isolde and I asked her if she received the news.
I mean, not really news, but they are pleased that we defeated the dragon, and would have liked to have seen us again, but we have other things to do and other things to focus on, I think.
Well, most definitely. So, since we're pretty much done here, are we going to try and see if our friend in the city is still alive to help?
Are you talking about Miliardo?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think that's the most important thing left to do right now.
Can DeMarcus hear this?
Sure. We're not trying to hide it.
He asks, what happened with Miliardo?
Oh, when we were returning to Mustone, when we got to the docks, he was arrested, and he had told me ahead of time that he might be arrested. So, he had me get in touch with him, via magic afterwards. But anyway, the long story short, I suppose, is that Miliardo was in love with Erin Lockwater, the daughter of, I guess, Lockwater Sr. But Miliardo's father and Lockwater Sr. and Erin Lockwater are all dead. And the main manors have been burnt. And the 2 younger Lockwater boys are also missing. Anyway, there was a series of letters between Miliardo and Erin that we had to recover. He's still in jail, but we're trying to figure out what happened and who actually burnt down the manors. And I suppose this would be of as much interest to you as it was to me. The cult of Cyric tried to come and take the letters that showed that Miliardo and Erin Lockwater were involved. So they must have some sort of stake in seeing him killed, or at least seeing him, I guess, locked up for the deaths of the Lockwaters. It's all very complicated.
Marcus, so the whole he was kind of waiting for like a punchline for the whole thing, and his eyes kind of raised when he talked about the cult of Cyric, because he said, yes, the political skirmishes between nobility over money, unfortunately I know firsthand, is always quite complicated. I have to admit, I don't know what Miliardo Lockwater means to us, per se. There is an enormous amount of things that we should be worried about, and the fate of one perfectly average noble who seems to be on the wrong side of his political opponents does not seem to fit into my mission here. And so I think that the events under the guild are clearly of overriding importance because they have everything to do with good and evil in the battle between them in Faerun. But I suppose working to figure out what's going on with Miliardo makes sense to me. Rick is related.
I mean, you can focus on what's underneath the guild. I'm not opposed to that, but Miliardo trusted me, and I guess is depending on me to keep him from being killed for a crime that he didn't commit, and I owe that to him, I think.
You know that he didn't commit it?
I don't, but I am determined to find out the truth. I would not let him die, if it's the case that he did kill Erin and her father and his own father, then that is one thing for justice to be served, but he asked me specifically to help him and to find the truth, and I'm not going to stop doing that.
Marcus looks at you, and he has probably like never quite looked at you this way before, and it is like kind of a patronizing parental look. And he says, make sure that you don't get sucked into the games of nobility and become one of their servants.
It is not my intention.
We'll have to be careful. I understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, but any noble would love to have a powerful cleric like you in their service through deception or through payment. We have to be careful that we keep our priorities clear and make sure that we don't just become some squad for hire of any noble who would have us, which is frankly every noble.
That is a fair assessment, but I certainly would not, do it for money or something like that, but it is, I think, to some degree, my responsibility to my god to make sure that he does not suffer and be killed for something that he didn't do.
I agree that does matter, and we should get to the bottom of it, but we just be careful.
I understand.
You have to be especially careful now that you have a fugitive of Tethir in your midst. Getting involved in the political squabbles and battles between the nobility of Mossstone is going to be itself quite dangerous and problematic for us.
Yes, maybe it is better for you to stay at the guild if we have to run into town.
That would probably be best, unless there's some way to conceal me. And I think that, especially if we're going to be operating with the nobles here, you may need to be very careful about my presence. But if it comes to killing anybody in the cult of Cyric, then I do hope that you invite me.
Of course.
Yeah,
But
the cult and the what's going on down below really do concern me. So I hope that we can keep our eyes trained on that target while we do our other stuff.
I agree. There's nothing remarkable about the situation that Miliardo is in. Many nobles in very similar positions all throughout this country. I think that the cult of Cyric is the most pressing issue of this.
well, then I suppose Miliardo is lucky that the cult is involved. Otherwise, perhaps it would not garner your attention.
It likely would.
And you guys see Missile like doing little experiments on Damon, like just kind of tinkering with his armor and stuff. Damon, do you do anything or say anything?
No, I think I'm pretty just amenable right now to whatever he's doing.
Yeah, it's not invasive or anything. He's just like doing things that look very strange, like kind of like reflex testing, you know, like hitting with little hammers on parts and then like looking at your reaction and then like writing down recordings. It's very thorough and yeah.
And while like everybody is like getting reacquainted and like catching up and going through all this, Damon would be listening, but he would mostly just be silent and letting Missile like do whatever he's doing.
Perfect. Your owl, by the way, I just had it summoned and out and around you.
Mm-hmm.
I figure in any kind of like standard like non-combat moment, even in combat if you'd like, but non-combat especially, you've just kind of got your little owl flying around now.
Yeah. And again, like I would say Damon feels pretty pensive right now, so he wouldn't be like sending the owl out to do
Sure.
recon or anything. He'd just like have it chilling.
Very
Damon,
cool.
I'm sorry, because the owl came about in the last battle, maybe, or prior. I can't remember. What is the nature of the owl? Is it something that you like cast find familiar?
Yeah,
on?
it's
Okay.
fine. It is find familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would, like, from my perspective, what would I be able to tell about the owl? Like, it's a sentient, living kind of thing.
You'd be able to see. I think that it's like just like it's I think it would be a fey owl, rather than like a normal beast. But yeah, other than that, it just looks like a normal owl.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like a magical version of an owl. It's no major difference from your perspective. But he can kind of like do shit with it that normally people couldn't do.
Gotcha. Yeah. I didn't know if we like RP'd it where like Damon has like a construct owl or something.
Oh, no. No, he's just casting it normal.
No, yeah.
That's very interesting to DeMarcus. So like Missile's up there just like tinkering around with Damon.
Mm-hmm.
This is sensed that the conversation with Isolde is somewhat tense, and he, after he says that he probably wouldn't save Miliardo, he kind of walks up to Damon and Missile, and he asks Damon, "You produce a living bird?"
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Can you produce a living bird? A construct like you?
I am unfamiliar with the magic it would take to do such a thing. This is simply a familiar spirit, capable of being done by any low-level wizard.
I see. Is it a friend of yours?
Inasmuch as anything is a friend, I suppose. Inasmuch as you are my friends.
I have to admit, I was very happy to see you with the squad, Damon.
It has been interesting traveling with them. I am learning much of the world as it has come to be over the last millennia or so.
I think initially you made me uncomfortable, and I hope you don't mind me saying that, but I've thought a lot about you recently, and there's a part of me that wonders if above and beyond being some kind of destruction of Maltanus, there isn't something more miraculous about you. Do you remember being born?
I do not.
What's the first memory you have, if you don't mind my asking?
The first memory I have is of being a fighter, sworn to defend Maltanus. I remember meeting him and thinking that I would die for him, if necessary. I do not remember being a child. I do not remember growing up. I was not, and then I was. That is what I remember.
Honestly, it's not so very different with us. But to have any kind of allegiance towards a monitor.
I serve a monitor at the behest of Master Multanus. I do not have any strong connection to a monitor myself, but I trust Multanus, and if he says it is what I should do, then it is what I will do.
So you follow a monitor's teachings and principles as though you had faith in him?
I suppose that is a fairly concise way of summing it up.
Well, then my prior statement about you stands, I think. That faithful and loyal servant of a monitor on this world than many humans are. Very happy that you're here.
Likewise.
Is Missile feverishly writing stuff down right now?
He actually wasn't paying attention to that conversation. He's still doing his like calisthenic, like kind of diagnostic things on Damon. He's now like moved up to his like elbows, and he's just like hitting them with a small hammer, and it's just like ringing out a noise. And then he seems like dissatisfied, and then he hits it with a different hammer, and it makes a different noise, and he seems pleased.
And so at the end of this conversation, as a way of wrapping up the heavier part of it, DeMarcus asks Damon, do you mind this strange little gnome doing that to you?
No, in a strange way, it is actually somewhat pleasant.
Well, then carry on.
And you see Missile saying something about your chassis being like too heavy. The armor you're wearing is too heavy for your model, and you can see him like writing down calculations and stuff. But he's not really paying attention to DeMarcus. Okay, so anything else you guys want to do at camp before you hit the road, or get a sleep and then hit the road?
I have a... Oh, go ahead.
All this is happening. Terran is just kind of like sitting by E's grave and kind of like mumbling to himself.
Hey, Leif, can you close your mic?
Oh, yeah.
Vosner is looking at all of the surrounding vegetation and his friends, just kind of observing it all. Does the vegetation or the animals here seem any different than when the dragon was alive?
There is a general sense that the forest is like a little brighter, a little more alive than it was. Like the blood of the dragon seemed to have a rejuvenating effect on the city, or on the forest at large, though it is noticeably less obvious this far away from the place where the dragon died.
Cool.
I was gonna go and have a conversation with Johoff. As I get closer, can I pick up anything that Terran is saying?
He's speaking in Draconic.
Okay. Alright. I'll just go over and talk to Johoff then. What are you
Johoff, by the way,
doing
is
right
off on the side of the camp, like, kind of doing some, like, pull-ups on tree branches, push-ups, and some shadow boxing. Like, he's trying to get himself, make sure he's in fine form.
I will just kind of, like, walk up and lean on a tree nearby and watch until he's at a good stopping point. Are you
Yeah, come on, do something for you.
preparing? Are you preparing for the fight?
it's been a while since I've been in the blood pits. It's probably best if I make sure I'm ready.
Forgive me for asking, but you have said a couple times that you were relieved to have gotten out of the blood pits. Were you fighting in them, like, against your will at some point?
It's complicated, I suppose. Not against my will in the strictest sense, but, yeah, the person I was when I was fighting in the blood pits is not who I am now, and well, I suppose at that point I was kind of made by some of the people around me into something that I don't want to be anymore. So, not strictly against my will, but uh, definitely in a way I don't want to go back.
That makes sense. Do you think there is any risk that once you fight again, you'll want to go back?
No, I don't think so. Well, I don't really not one for you know, being all buddy and talking about our past, but you must know, my childhood mate was killed in the blood pits, and you know, that's what really got me out in the end. It sort of shook me up, made me realize what sort of things were happening there. And so I don't think even going back now I'll be able to forget the death of me mate.
Of course not. Those are the kind of things that change somebody. Well, I am sorry that our group got you into that position, but if you'll allow us to stay and to, I guess, support you, at least you won't be alone.
Yeah, well, you know, it's water under the bridge, right? You don't need to be apologetic and whatnot for that. It's what happened, and I ain't holding no grudge. Besides, I kind of swore that one of these days I'd find a way to punish the man who killed my mate. And who knows, maybe getting back into the blood pit will give me the opportunity to find him and kill him.
That's fair. Well, if that's something that you want, then I hope it happens for you.
Yeah, thanks, me too.
But I'll leave you be. You seem busy.
Yeah, well, hey, before you go, I think we need to get a few things straight.
But what?
Look, we're going back to Mosstown, and Mosstown's my territory, right? It's where I was born and raised. It's where I'll kind of put down some roots. So, I've got some feelings about folks there, and it's become increasingly unclear to me where this group stands with regards to the average citizen, right, of Mosstown. Because you seem pretty willing to sacrifice people who you don't know and who are less able to defend themselves. And, why, you know, I'm not here to judge. I've done some pretty shit things in my life, but I feel like we need to be above board about where we stand on some of these issues. So, you know, what's this group all about?
Well, I would not think that I could speak for the whole group, but it is certainly not my intention to, I guess, put other people at risk, though I know that that might seem directly contradicted by what happened at the Lizard's Thicket. I put a lot of stock into, I guess, people who have trusted certain things to me. And I felt in the moment, not that I had a long time to decide, but that if I gave the letters up, that Miliardo would almost certainly die, and maybe it is bravado on my part, but I hoped that if the owner there was hurt in the scuffle that I could heal her, and it seemed at the time that maybe the only way to achieve both things was to hold on to the letters and try to do my best to take care of her. But I understand if it looks from the outside that it was a callous move on my part. It is... I don't think that she is expendable or anything like that, if that's how it came off.
But yeah, fuck yeah, that's how it came off. I mean, the only reason she's still alive is because of luck, because she's got some pluck to her. There's no really other reason. She's alive in spite of us, not because of us.
I understand. Well, I wouldn't say it is like a commonplace thing for our group to devalue the average citizen. But the guild, most of our jobs, admittedly, are to protect affluent individuals. Though we have also
you don't have to tell
done
me
things
that.
to...
I know you don't give a fuck about the average citizen lost him. That's not news.
We have done a couple jobs for farmers and such, but I would assume that if you have to pay the guild to use an adventuring squad, then it's, yeah, going to be pretty weighted, but at least in my mind, it was not a conscious decision to risk her. I think I thought that I could do both things. And you were right. I very well could have been wrong.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm not really here to judge. That would be a bit on the hypocritical side of me, but just so we're clear on this, you all just basically mercenaries for hire, right?
I guess sometimes.
Well, right then. Now we know.
You don't want to be involved with us if we are for hire?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I've been a mercenary for hire most of my life. Oh, fuck the law. Whoever can pay the most, right?
Well, I mean, I think the guild tries to choose things that go in accord with the law.
Well, that makes sense, right? Because the people can pay the most to guild are also people making the fucking laws. Of course they can do that.
I suppose that is also true. To be very honest with you, and this is going to sound, as I'm sure I am sounding a lot today, a bit naive. When I came here, I don't know your stance on the gods, but when I came here, it was my understanding that my god had sent me here as atonement, that there were things that I did before I got here that meant that my life was only going to be better by serving him, and it was my understanding that what he wanted me to do was to protect my squad. Because I was praying very hard for a sense of direction, and he gave me these powers at just about the same time that I got the letter to come here. So, before all of this happened, I didn't have any stake at all in anything that happened in Mossstone. I didn't know anything about the noble houses, or anything. I just, I guess, pretty blindly wanted to protect the people that were put in front of me. But, I suppose I didn't do very well at that either. But, I'm trying my best, and if you know better than me, or you see things more clearly than I do, you're welcome to talk to me about it, so that I can make better decisions.
You know, I was a young guy, well, still just starting to work for the various gangs. At that time, there were lots of different gangs, not just two that there are now that have precedence. There were a bunch. They were all jockeying for position. At that time, I was, not affiliated with any one of them in particular. I was just kind of working for whoever would pay the most, right? Anyway, there started being these symbols being painted down in the sewers, right? And several of the gangs was getting concerned that these symbols meant something. And so I got paid, and my mate Willem got paid, and we set out trying to find out what was going on with these symbols, trying to figure out the meaning behind them. And we did. There was some fucking little kid that was just messing around down there. Symbols didn't mean a fucking thing, right? Look, I'm not debating whether or not they're gods. I've seen shit I can't explain, and I know there's gods. Hell, I lived through the very end of the spell plague. I know what's going on here. But, sometimes we try to find some sort of message from a god in every little thing. It turns out the god don't give a fuck, and they're just up there rolling dice. So, don't take it too hard if you can't figure out what your god wants, because they're probably just full of shit.
She looks actively upset by this idea.
Look, if you want to know how to live a good life, you know that, which one of the dice rollers do you follow?
Oh, Ilmater?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Right. You know that fucker who lives in the old town in the slums who follows Ilmater, right?
Tyven?
Yeah, I think that's one. Right. Yeah. I got mad respect for that guy. Right? Not because he follows some kind of dice roller, not because he's looking for some kind of message from that god, but because he regards the plight as everybody who is, down on the luck pole, who is being stepped on by the man above him. He regards all of them as if they is asking him personally for his help, and he does what he can. That kind of shit, that's the sort of shit that'll get you remembered. You want to be remembered, do shit like that. Don't be trying to figure out what some god means about this and that, or them putting shit in the sky and trying to figure it out. You'll never figure shit out. You just see what you want to see.
That's fair. I do have a lot of respect for Tyven. Yeah, I think I'll think about that a little bit more carefully. Thanks, Johoff.
Yeah, well, don't thank me just for yelling at you. I'm a mean old man. Don't get it twisted.
That's fair. Alright, well, Don't let me distract you from all of the, boxing or whatever.
Oi, hey, one more thing about this fight in the mud pits.
Yeah?
You all are welcome to come, although try not to kill any more gang members while you're there. But I do have to press upon you that you cannot interfere.
Alright.
Right, this fight is mine, and if they see you doing some kind of magical shit down there, it will go badly for all of us.
I understand. I won't interfere.
Yeah, we'll
Just
make
so
sure
we're
that-
clear, though, if you're killed, there's another cleric that will come and help, or like at that point it is fair game to try to help. If you're like dead.
Yeah, I suppose there is another cleric down there. Not that he really wants to be, I don't think, but yeah, I suppose at that point you can try to resurrect me or whatnot. I mean, the fight is over at the point I'm dead.
Yeah, I mean, if you've lost, then you've lost, right? Then I can do something?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Alright. Well, I hope you don't die, I mean, but
Yeah, that makes two of us.
I won't interfere, and you don't have to worry about that.
Thank you very much.
Of course. And I will walk away.
Okay. Does anybody else want to have a conversation before going to the next day? Does anybody want to talk to Taryn as he's sitting next to Leord's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so is it like nighttime, John? Sorry,
Yeah,
I had my mic off. I was gonna say.
We'll just say it's nighttime, sure.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, we're all probably, like, around... I mean, not all of us, necessarily, but, like, there's a fire, and we're kind of, like, close to the grave and stuff.
Boom, nighttime. Oh, it's like a little too dark. No, that's alright. It's working out.
All just sitting in the dark together. Yeah, so first, I would have kind of... I would have talked to Taryn, and I would have just, like, we don't have to go through it, but I would have, like, kind of politely introduced him to Missile and Joe Hoff and Damon and Aiza, because he doesn't know any of these people.
Okay, yeah.
So, Taryn, I probably would have been like, I'm sure you're wondering who all these people are. Things have changed a lot since last saw you.
Yeah. It's a lot different.
Sorry, could you say that again? You broke up for me.
He just says, yeah, a lot's changed.
Yeah. So I'd like to introduce you to our new friends here. First, this is Mr. Joe Hoff, the man with the muscles and the fists, who be important for us now. He's from Mossstone, and we first met him doing some missions for Miliardo, and he helped us a lot since then. And this is...
Yeah, hey.
All right, go ahead, Joe Hoff.
Oh, I was just going to say hi. Also, nobody actually calls me Mr. Joe Hoff except for him, so Joe Hoff is fine.
DeMarcus is totally conscious of that fact, too, and he's going to continue. Next, we have Hyeza, who we actually met on the way back from using you here in the first place. He's from Kalimsham. He's a refugee, and his caravan was actually under attack, and he was fighting off a bunch of bandits, goblins, much like the ones from Mines, as I understand it, that you were imprisoned in. And he's also been helping us out a lot since that time, and he had a letter of invitation into the guild, and so he's a member.
Terran's kind of like subdued but friendly throughout this.
Yeah. DeMarcus just thought it was weird for you to be like sitting around all these people. Then he
Yeah,
introduces Missile kind of just like vaguely because he doesn't really know anything about Missile. He says Missile is quite new. I don't know very much about him, and he was sent here to help us to understand Damon, who is this very strange metallic construct who seems to be alive, as I'm sure you noticed. It might interest you to know that Damon is actually a construct that was made by Multanus, who's a very famous spellcaster, as I'm sure you know. And at that point,
Yeah.
but
Go ahead, Stan.
I said Terran has no idea about Multana.
okay, yeah. Marcus can probably tell that. So DeMarcus is actually trying to get to like a place where he can kind of like invite everybody like around and talk to them, and so he kind of like calls everyone over. He's especially interested in like Vosner and Izzy and Terran standing this part.
Okay. Throughout this too, Hyaza's kind of being like polite but kind of standoffish.
Oh. Could I? Does Vosner pick up on that? Or you're not trying to hide it?
No, it's just kind of like his mood right now. Like, so he's not like hiding anything.
Gotcha. Is it because he's a dragonborn?
It's not really directed at anyone in particular.
Gotcha.
But we're all being gathered around the campfire.
Yeah, like I've asked everyone to like come and talk. If you weren't there already, I mean, we're probably all just hanging out there. Unless Johoff is still just doing pull-ups in the dark by a tree in Spider Forest here.
No, I'm good. I'll come.
Yeah, so DeMarcus says to everyone, I've been thinking about what to say about all of this. I think that the best thing to do now is to just be honest with all of you and give you all the whole story and everything I know, because even though it will put you into danger to know the whole truth, I think that you're already in that danger, just in virtue of being so close to me and harboring a fugitive like me. I think that you deserve to know what the situation is and what you're fighting for. And there are a lot of stories that are concealed, and if I should die, then I don't think that anyone would know about any of them, unfortunately, especially you. Out of respect to you, I'd like to tell you everything I know. First, Izzy, you said that Leoward told you about a woman. Did he ever talk about her very much?
No, only in the letter that he left us.
What did he say in the letter?
Oh, that she had been killed by individuals from Kalansham, and just that his life did not have the same meaning afterwards, but he didn't identify her or anything.
Well, it's all true. You all may have some sense of the fact that Leoward was quite highly regarded as a noble, perhaps even royalty, do you not? I believe I let that slip when I first...
Of course, he was like next in line or something.
Yes, and it was
You'll have
very
had no
important
clue.
that you kept all of that quiet. Because the danger that I'm currently in, the situation that's befallen me could very well be yours. When I first came to Maustone with the Queen's Court before the festivals, noticed Leoward, I immediately recognized him as my old friend, who was supposed to have been dead, and who, according to everyone in Tether, had been dead for years and years and years. The son of the Duchess Granix, and in a very real sense, an heir to the throne of Tether. Upon finding out that he was still alive, I was in shock, and I could not understand or see the way forward or what to do. But I also couldn't keep it to myself. I couldn't tell the queen, not necessarily because she would be an enemy of his, but because understanding that Leoward was alive could throw all of Tethier into a political crisis and start wars. I had to tell someone, so I sent a letter to Leoward's brother Nathan, telling him that Leoward was alive. He never responded, he never replied. So we had all thought that Leoward was killed, as you say, from Kalimshan assassins, as it were, or some kind of criminals we never really knew. And his wife were essentially gone for a long time in some sort of a horrible accident. When I returned to Daramar, I did many things. I first did what Master Marin told me to do, and I found the witch, and I gave him the letter. Spoke with the queen. I informed her. I spoke with the queen and gave her Marin's letter. And I then went to take care of a few tasks which were very important to me, and I think to the squad. First of all, I stopped at the barracks of the Knights of the Eternal Order, who have a post in Daramar, to speak with an old friend. I wanted to give you this information for a long time, but after we failed to recover your friend Aristos Regius from the Abyss, I sent a letter to my old friend who is a sort of human intelligence expert. As you know, the Order goes on many missions into the Abyss, and we have strongholds and footholds there, and understanding the movements and the intentions of the armies of the demons and the legions is a very important strategy for us. So this man, his purpose is to understand what demons are doing and how and why. And I sent him this letter so that I could try to understand for you a little bit more about Aristos Regius, since I failed to get him back for you. He told me, I'm sorry, there's a lot going on right now and more pain or suffering, but not a guarantee that any of us will ever survive on a daily basis, and the truth matters here. So what my friend said is not much, but I hope that it gives you maybe some sense of truth about what was happening. He speculated that what he knew was that Demon Lord Demogorgon had been capturing warlocks pacted to the demon Alzrius in a kind of war that these demons are having with one another. He suspected that Aristos was probably taken for that reason, but that it would have been quite strange for someone like Aristos to have been taken specifically, especially given the scenario in the mine and the ransom. That was all very unique, let alone the fact that this man was a member of the guild and a high-ranking noble. But he looked into it and he thought that there was probably very something special about Regius himself. And historically, I don't know how much of this is familiar to you, if Regius ever said anything about any of this, but the bloodline of Regius is actually likely traced back to the Regioso line, which has a very notorious and unscrupulous history, in the sense that the bloodline is noted for being shadowy, as though involvements with dark entities were not unusual from generation to generation to generation. And it's very likely that there's something about Aristos Regius in particular that the demon Alzrius was interested in, that is a part of a, frankly, centuries-long project. And this was essentially all that my friend could tell me. It was all that he could research and find out, but I thought that everyone should know.
Yes, before you continue, thank you. It's still something that I think about, and it's nice to have some closure on the matter.
I felt it was my obligation because I was sent into the Abyss to get him back for you, and I failed. And I know exactly how painful it is to leave people there. I'm sorry.
She looks very grateful.
He sees this, and he sort of just pensively says, "There's much more." After I left the Order, I was supposed to go find the Lady Wizard who Master Marin had wanted me to bring back to the guild. She was going to teleport us away from Daramar. So before I met with her that night to leave, I decided to go speak with Nathan and ask him why he never responded to my letter about Leeward. When I was discussing this matter with Nathan, we got in a bit of an argument about what to do, and I left after that, and I went to go say goodbye to the Queen and receive my final orders from her before returning. While I was in the Queen's court, I was sensationally arrested by private guards as a conspirator against the crown and as an enemy of the state. I quickly learned that Lady Granix, Eduard and Nathan's mother, hired a plot to arrest me and to execute and silence me. That she behind the plot because Nathan let slip to me before I left. He couldn't tell the Queen about Leeward's existence because it would ruin everything for his family. Because the reason why Leeward's wife is dead and Leeward was supposed to have been killed is that his mother, Lady Granix herself, the Duchess, had hired Kalimshan assassins to kill Leeward and his wife because she couldn't stand to have Leeward marry into a commoner bloodline. When she found out that the assassins had failed to kill Leeward, she let him survive, essentially. Clearly, Leeward had decided to flee and spend the rest of his life in obscurity, and she needed everyone to believe that he was dead so that she could try to gain power other ways, and she feared that making his existence known would have provoked him to return and to take vengeance upon her. Once I found this out with Nathan, I didn't quite know what to say or what to do. I returned to the Queen, and I didn't know if I was going to tell her or not, but I was arrested before I could decide. No doubt she heard Nathan and I discuss this, and she found out that Leeward was alive and that I knew about it and that I was poking around and that I would probably tell the Queen. So she constructed a plot, and I've essentially been framed by her as trying to get close enough to the Queen, noble that I am and a loyal servant of hers, to construct a false Leeward. She wants it to be known that Leeward is still dead, so that I could inject Leeward into the crown and then be the puppet controlling him behind the scenes, essentially. So I was imprisoned and awaiting trial, and it's somewhat likely that I would. And the Queen was contacting me, and she trusts me, but I told her that she needs to sacrifice me if need be to preserve her power, because she cannot let the Duchess get her way and take power through this. So I am essentially waiting for the Queen to come up with a way to expose the Duchess, which will be very difficult. And in that time, contacted me while I was in my jail cell and found out the truth, and she was kind enough to help me to escape. But as it stands, since I know the truth about Leeward, and since all of you now know the truth about Leeward as well, we are all great enemies to the Duchess Granix, Leeward's mother. And we will have to wait to see what Queen Sybil is able to do about the situation. If Queen Sybil is unable to expose the plot, then I will surely be executed, and you must let me be executed, and you must keep this secret. We cannot let the fact that I am so close to Sybil undermine her power and let the Duchess Granix take control of Tevir in some way. If Queen Sybil is able to expose the Duchess's plot and remove her from any kind of power and disenfranchise her like I've been disenfranchised, then I imagine that I'll be restored to my old dignities and respects, and we can go forward. But that is the situation. And in a sense, that is also Leeward's story.
Wow.
You know, for all of this, I'm not liking nobles any more than I did before. But I'm glad that you're safe here with us. I'm still very concerned about what's going on with this cult and things that are going on under the guilds. I think would have much more impact on the people around us, regardless of who they are. There's a lot more to lose, but
Couldn't agree more, Vosner. Everything that's happening with the cult of Cyric under the guild has everything to do with whether good or evil triumphs in this world. And even that has overriding importance above the political toils of Tethir.
Yeah.
But still, we cannot help but fail to notice the cult of Cyric and their engagements with what's going on under the guild is also seemingly deeply embedded in the activities of the noble political orders of Tethir.
No,
And in a certain sense, these two stories are likely related. But I agree that if it comes down to simply political matters, irrelevant to what we need to be doing.
True. It's more of a lament, really. I know that we have a lot of things to think about, but that's just something that is sad. I think for me, protecting those who I care about and the land that supports us and those who need it to live is something that I'm concerned about, but we can't have war, because that's one thing that'll make everything worse. And we can't have another plane of existence destroy this one, because that'll even be worse.
Political instability would give the cult of Cyric everything they want.
Yeah. So I just kind of...
If it came to it, I would die in order to keep the queen in power.
Well, that is a choice that I would admire and respect. So, at least as far as this druid is concerned, I am glad that we are friends, and I want to support you in any good way. So,
you do?
Yeah.
Well, likewise, and forgive me for my temper earlier. I suppose you would know about the dangers of getting involved with political affairs, so...
No need to apologize, Isolde. These things are complicated. And the only reason I know about them is because I was raised in the house of Sunspire and Daramar, and I've spent my entire life in these political situations. But for an outsider from the north, these things would be completely impenetrable and they wouldn't seem relevant at all. So I think it's good that I can teach you about these kinds of truths, and you can, in my mind, and focus on the fact that, in a certain sense, none of this matters, and we should be doing good anyway. That's all that we can do.
Perhaps, but it seems that you are doing a lot of good, at least in the interest of Queen Sybil, and to keep the Duchess from taking power. It is tragic to think of her doing that to her own son, and that her other son would have knowledge of it must be a heavy burden.
Yes, Ethan is not a bad man, but his mother is very controlling. And there are very few people, honest, other than Queen Sybil, who can really remain outside of the sphere of Duchess Granix's influence. Leoward himself didn't return, seek vengeance, and I think that there's a certain sense in which us trying to prevent Lady Granix from taking power would be a kind of vengeance that we could conduct in Leoward's absence and for him.
I like that.
I've got a quick question, if you don't mind.
Mr. Johoff, please.
Yeah, here's this idea I've been working on. Excuse me for this. I am just, a gang member, not into the uppity ways of the nobility and whatnot, but it seems to me it's a pretty basic truth that you can't assume power if you're dead. So, why don't we just kill her?
I'm sorry, Tim, what did he say? I missed the last part.
Oh, why don't we just kill her?
It cut out again. I don't know why it keeps cutting out. I'm sorry.
Joe wants to kill her. He wants to kill the lady.
Oh, yeah, Lady Grants. Okay, yeah, gotcha, yeah. Well, killing her would likely provoke a kind of war. It's more important to come up with evidence that would ruin her in the mind of the public. To just kill her would too easily let her allies use her death as a way to gain power, and the result would be the same. So what we really need to do is to wait until Queen Sybil can find the evidence that she needs to expose Lady Granix's plot.
Okay, I see it. But maybe plan 2.0, right, is we kill her and we plant some evidence on her, right? So then they find the body, find the evidence, like, oh shit, she's an evil bitch, and then, everything's fine.
Marcus grins a bit, and he says, if it came to it, Johoff, I would have no qualms killing her.
Hey, John.
Hey, yep.
Can I see what, how Hyeza is reacting to all this talk of Kalimshan assassins?
Yeah. How is Hyeza reacting? I mean, if he's trying to hide his reaction, then you'd have to roll insight. But if he's just like straight up responding to it,
He's got kind of a poker face right now.
all right, roll that insight then. And if you want to roll deception on Hyeza, you can, to try to like keep her from reading you. Yeah, you can't tell. It looks like he's relatively unfazed about it.
Alright. Carry on.
I mean, just so you know, Hyeza would have dealt with Kalimshan assassins while he lived in Kalimshan, so it's not like he's...
Yeah, I know. I was trying to see if maybe he was reacting to it like he would have known anything additional.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, his face has been kind of set this way for the entire conversation. So notice that the poker face, this blank, kind of unemotive face has been there the entire time. So it wasn't new to the assassin.
Okay. Thanks.
Maybe Hyeza is Lady Granix.
Damn it, Tim! You were supposed to keep that under wraps. This is what happens when... Yeah. When you turn a DM into a player, all of a sudden he starts dropping lore. Okay, is that all you guys wanted to chit-chat about? We got a lot out.
Up those sexy magic things that we found?
Yeah, why don't you guys talk about that? And let's take like a 5-minute break in case people have to pee, and then we can start up again in a second.
Alright. I can type a little list of them into the chat if anyone forgot.
Yeah, I've got them written somewhere.
It was like the spellcasting greatsword, the
Yep.
key, and then the stone of wisdom.
Yep. And we have 5,000 gold and 3 ancient books.
Oh yeah, the books. So DeMarcus is going to kind of look around like, come on, I've got this one mall, so, you know, the mall guy, right?
Yep.
Damon would be interested in leafing through the books because they were written in Netherese, if I remember.
Yes. And I will discuss with Vosner about taking the Ioun stone. And then I will take it.
Nice.
Discussion over.
Discussion over. Do you want to be healed? Cool.
And Vosner was like, "Is that another shiny bauble? You can have it."
So, I mean,
Wait,
with
no,
the
we'll be
spellcasting sword, you know, like, Damon casts spells and has a great sword.
Yeah, so I can tell you...
Beefy, though, and cast spells, I don't know.
I can tell you that as a player, Leif wants that sword for Damon, but as a character, Damon like is more interested in the books because that's like the only thing he's done on his own is like read and learn magic and stuff. When it came to like fighting, that was always like given to him by Moltanis, and so like
Yeah,
as far as
that
like
makes
fighting
sense.
equipment goes or like possessions at all, really, Damon
Yeah.
doesn't have a concept of like ownership and owning things.
I think, I mean,
Just to
you
get
can
meta
do,
for a
you can
minute.
take both. I mean, you know, the books will probably whatever with and talk with Marin about it and stuff. You know, it doesn't have to just be one. I mean, if you're the right fit for the sword, and like I kind of think
No,
you
but
are.
yeah, but that's just what I mean is that like in character, Damon's not going to take the sword. He's going to be
Well,
like,
Yeah, I think
oh, someone else will take that, or if I'm supposed to have it, somebody's going to tell me I should have it. Otherwise, I have a sword.
makes sense.
All right, I can read the room. Joe Off will take the sword.
There it is.
Oh, that's the money.
Oh man.
So, yeah, and then we have 5,000 gold divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of us. So everyone gets 625 gold.
I don't know if anybody saw, but John added a loot stash to our files. That if we want to do like a communal gold, we can just add it in there instead.
Oh,
Yeah, do you guys see that in the actors thing? So there's a mod that just came out recently for a loot stash. There's also one for a merchant. I don't know if you guys can see the plate and hammer in there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're not supposed to be able to see that. It's fine. It's just there's a shop in Uptown that if you go to, it will have those things and those prices. And I don't know how to make it like conditional that you can see the merchant sometimes and not other times. Maybe I should just like unshare it with you right now, but I don't really care. I'm too lazy.
Nice.
Alright, well, I'll put the gold in here for now.
Okay.
5,000 gold. But I think as far as in character goes, we should at least offer the 625 to Johaf since he's technically not part of our squad.
Oh, yeah.
So he can take it away if he would like.
Yeah, that sounds good. He's saving up for a new tat.
Alright, so then I will
DeMarcus gives Johoff all of his 625 share.
Okay.
He says, since I understand that you have your reasons, but since you choose not to be treated with what I take to be the dignity and respect that you deserve as a member of the guild, then I hope that you will at least take this payment for everything that you do for us.
That's really not necessary.
Master Johoff, I'm a fugitive of the state. I don't have much use in 625 gold right now.
Yeah, I'm a fucking gang member. Fugitive of the
course,
state. I've
so
been
you
a fugitive of the state since I was 5.
Fair enough, but you won't convince me. Take the money.
Yeah, well, thanks. Maybe we can go get tattoos together one of these days.
Maybe.
Bosner's just blown away by this whole reaction.
Okay. So you guys figure out who gets what. Did you need help throwing those things in your inventory, or were you able to do it?
I think we parsed out most of it. So, did people want to put their individual stuff in their individual things?
Oh fuck! All of the art for the items are broken right now. I don't know what the fuck happened. All right, I'll fix it.
Also, how do I update my character sheet on the Foundry?
You can. What do you need to do?
The level. I can't change it. I don't know where or how to do that.
I changed it. How much HP do you have now?
Should be 52.
Oh well, that's already updated then. Okay, yeah, I changed it. Okay, so let's.
With the mall, do I add that, or am I good to go?
I'll add it.
Yeah, that's my hit.
Yeah, I'll get it figured out before your next combat. Let's just say that.
I added and equipped the Iron Stone.
Perfect.
And if DeMarcus hasn't already, Isolda will insist that Damon check out the sword at least. That it would seem very useful for him.
Yeah, I mean, DeMarcus doesn't. He would have said the same. I mean, DeMarcus wouldn't have any sense of the magic capability of it, but he would say that Damon, above all people, you're the one who is wielding a greatsword, and we have what appears to be a very valuable one here. I don't know how it works or what's so special about it, but I think that it would be best if you used the greatsword because it would help yourself and all of us.
Damon turns away from the books then, and picks up the greatsword and holds it, and maybe if he has enough space, takes a practice swing, and then he says, "If no one else can get use from this, I believe that I can, and will accept gratefully."
All right.
Nice.
Okay. I fixed at least the greatsword. So let me drag that to, and I'll get that figured out. I should have done it last time, but I guess I didn't know who was getting what.
Killer.
Okay. So yeah, the stats aren't fully worked out for that, but yeah, there's at least that going on. Sweet. Anyways, so you guys go to bed finally after a very long conversation around the campfire, and you wake up in the morning and you head on the road, and the travel is relatively uneventful. Eventual.
Sorry, John, really quick before you do that, last RP thing. Before we leave, Marcus, since he's got 2 malls now, and he clearly doesn't need the old one, he actually leaves the first regular mall that he had just leaning against a tree next to Leoward's grave, and he just kind of says a prayer before it. That's the last thing that he does before we leave.
Okay.
Damon would have done the same thing with the greatsword, except that he would not have said a prayer. He would have just left the sword for Leoward.
Sweet. So
So nice.
a great sword and a maul are propped up against a tree near where Leeward's body has recently been buried.
I love it.
And you guys take to the road, and eventually you get within sight of the city, and it seems, kind of peaceful at this distance. This is a familiar sight for you guys now. You've gone down the tradeway multiple times, and you've come up this with the coast on your left a couple of times now. The most recent time you did this trek, however, you came up and there were only, I think, 4 or 5 of you, and now the whole group is there. It seems kind of amazing that you've got such a large cohort, everybody back together for the most part, and Bear Squad is kind of complete once again. Is there anything you guys wanted to chat about before you get back to the city? Or did you cover all of this stuff? Oh yeah, feel free to execute all of your long rests.
Yeah, DeMarcus, he's sort of, since he left, he's wearing kind of like just a very, like, he's in like shabby plate armor, but he's also got a cloak on. And so, like, while we're even close to the city, he is like hooded and trying to not stand out and probably huddled behind Aaron, who's quite large or something,
Sure.
He impresses upon everyone, obviously, don't say anything about what I told you about Leeward to anyone ever, and don't call me DeMarcus Sunspire here. I don't care what you call me.
All right.
Okay. As you approach the city, you can tell at the gates that there is a kind of loud hustle and bustle, as though a lot of people in the foreign district are kind of moving to a place to assemble, to see something that's going on. You see a lot of people all walking in the same direction, and you guys come to this scene. Immediately in front of your group, a very small street urchin kind of runs up to you, and he begins talking to Hyeza, and he says, "Hey, you blue guy, you're supposed to come with me. I've been sent to get you to come. If you just come with me."
Hyeza arcs an eyebrow and asks who sent him.
It's the nice lady with the red hair. She's the one. She said you'd know who she was talking about.
He nods and then turns to the rest of the squad and says something like, "I've got to go with him. I'll see you back at the Citadel." And then he turns to follow.
Alright.
Be safe.
And so with that, the little urchin leads Hyeza off to the side and out of view. And you see in front of you kind of a large assembly of people moving around, talking, and you guys can move if you'd like, your characters. Missile walks forward with Mortimer. And there's a large group of people assembling, and there's a man standing on top of where these gallows are, and he seems to be readying himself to address the crowd, who are all kind of waiting for him to say something. You guys do anything?
Wait, I'm sorry. Who's in the gallows?
Nobody's in the gallows. Somebody's standing on the platform where the gallows are.
Is someone that we recognize?
You have never seen him before.
I would just ask one of the townspeople who that man is.
Okay, so you go up to like a random townsperson and you say, you ask who that is, and they say, "Don't you know? That's William Vaudry."
Is he being executed for something?
I think not. He's come to address the people.
Oh. About anything in particular?
Well, that's what we're about to find out, isn't it? Just wait. Listen for what he says.
Okay. She kind of nervously makes her way further into the crowd.
Yeah, as you kind of push your way into the crowd, you notice a few familiar faces, some Kalimsham people that maybe were part of the refugees. You notice, let's see, anybody else? No, just general citizens. In the back of the crowd, you see a man in dark hood, who you recognize to be Italius, one of the members of the Crimson Rats, who seems to be just kind of sitting on the outskirts, trying not to be noticed. But the rest of the people are kind of focused, looking at William Vaudry, who's standing on top of this elevated platform.
I'm staying behind, in the entrance. Taryn, are you still where you are marked on the map?
Taryn would be following everybody, staying with the group.
Okay. Yeah, DeMarcus is gonna stay back, kind of in the shadows under this little thing.
Yeah, okay. And after a few moments, unless there's anything else you guys want to do, William Vaudry kind of walks up closer to the edge of the platform, and he says, "I come before you as a lifelong citizen of Mostone, and as someone who understands your pain. For too long, Mostone has been run by the rich and powerful, for the rich and powerful. Criminals burn our city to the ground while the strong city guard are off in Firedrake Bay, crewing Leventhorpe ships. Rich men use our city's resources to make themselves richer, while cultists run rampant in the streets. But the problem is not with the people of this great city, but with the government that protects them. For years now, I have sat on this council of this great city and watched the Leventhorpes and Lockwaters tear at each other's throats for power. And until recently, the only people who were harmed were the wonderful citizens of this city. Right now, Milliardo Leventhorpe sits in a cell for the murder of the entire Lockwater family." And as he says that, the audience starts to gasp. They've just heard about this for the first time. He continues, "He has been stripped of his title and awaits the justice that here these gallows will give him." And he points to the nooses that are kind of near his head. He says, "Mostone has survived, or has lived too long, under the tyranny of the squabbling aristocrats. This is why I, William Vaudry, the remaining members of the city council, have assembled for one final vote. The vote will prove to be the most important vote in the history of Mostone." And all the people start to kind of get excited and talk amongst themselves. He says, "Today, Mostone becomes a democracy. With a fairly elected leader through a democratic process, this city can finally be free of the bureaucratic nonsense of its aristocratic class. I hereby announce my resignation from the council and my candidacy for the mayor of this fine city. If someone wishes to run against me, I will accept their challenge. This proud city deserves a leader who is chosen by its people." And the crowd kind of erupts in cheers, and some of the people start chanting, "William, William," in kind of unison. And he kind of scans the crowd, smiling, looking down on everybody, and he seems very pleased with himself. But he seems to be kind of trying to keep it under low wraps. He's not getting super amped up or anything. And he whispers something to the man on his left, and the man on the left is the guard in the metal hat, who comes down to the crowd and starts working his way towards you guys.
I'm gonna as I see him step down, kind of start working my way backwards.
Yeah, so this guard keeps pushing his way towards your group, and kind of like pushes past people until he gets to either Isolde or Vosner, whoever's closest. And he's going to say, William Baudry requests your presence at his apartment, or his manor. And he hands you a note that just says, like, well, please come for dinner tonight.
I'll just kind of take it and nod and say thank you. We will discuss it. Thank you.
All the while, the people around are chanting, William, 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 over and over.
Can I look around and see if there's anyone that looks upset by this news?
Yeah. You see Atelius behind you, who doesn't seem to care either way. And you see Cass, who you might recognize, who has kind of blended herself in with the crowd, and she doesn't seem to be chanting either. Standing next to her is a woman with blonde hair, who is not chanting either.
Any other shady characters that we would pick up on?
I don't think you know any of these other people.
Okay.
And
I'll keep working my way back out of the crowd. But I'm like not gonna pay a super amount of attention to DeMarcus and kind of walk by him and let him follow us instead.
And Joe wants. I'm gonna have Joe work his way over to Cass.
okay.
Where is she on this screen?
She's highlighted in red. That might make it easier to see her.
She's the lady in red.
Yeah, she's in the right side of the crowd.
And she sees you coming, and she goes, "Can you believe this bullshit?"
Yeah, well, it leaves town for like a few days, right? And the whole thing goes to fucking shit, don't it?
Yeah, more than you know.
Yeah, what's Big Pete's take on this?
Well, I don't think he's got a take yet. This is kind of out of nowhere.
See you around.
Yeah, you'll find him at the Lee Wind. Hey, don't you have a match tomorrow?
Yeah, it looks that way.
Well, be careful. I think Atelius wants you dead.
Yeah, what was your first clue?
Well, he wanted that other fella dead, and he, something beat him to it.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens tomorrow then. Hey, you have any idea how the rats has taken this news, eh? Gestures to the crowd and all that's going on.
I don't know. I don't claim to understand anything they do these days.
Right, well, be safe, Cass.
Yeah, you too. Is there anything else? Okay, and you guys are just leaving to go back to the guild?
I'll stop. I forget where we know Atelius from.
You know him. He's the Crimson Rat who threatened to kill Leeward, and...
I will not stop and talk to him.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just for flavor, Damon really wants to kill that guy, but he's not going to.
Sweet.
do it.
Put Damon in the pit.
Damon would probably win.
Before we leave, like, as DeMarcus is seeing everyone kind of, like, walking out, and they just got this letter, he has, like, he has a sense that, like, you know, this is the kind of political shit that is... He has a sense of what's going on, and he knows that, like, you know, there are cultists related to this project somehow. So he would cast, or not cast something, but he would use his divine sense as everyone's walking out, just to like see, just he's throwing out feelers and seeing if there's any kind of evil shit around.
I can't remember exactly. Yeah, can you read it?
It's within feet. I detect the presence and the location of any celestial fiend or undead within 60 feet, basically. Or any place that has been consecrated or desecrated, as with the Hallow spell.
Yeah, you don't detect any like supernatural evil shit here.
Demarcus is satisfied, and he turns to leave.
Okay. Where would you like to go? Just straight to the guild, everybody?
Okay.
Well, once we're all like together and kind of moving away, I'm going to tell them, that we were invited to the Vaudrys for dinner. Yeah.
We should be very careful about how implicated we are in what appears to be a revolution brewing in Mossstone. It already appears as though we have connections with both the guild and with the Laventhorpes, and there is a war brewing in this town, so we need to think very carefully about what we do.
Agreed.
I feel like this
It
would
seems
be...
that does. Oh, go ahead.
No. Wozner would just say it seems like a big distraction, and he's even more disgruntled by it. That's it.
Marcus not in agreement. He's on the same page with that.
Damon says, it is worth noting, however, that such connections with the Laventhorpes and the Guild may be good to temper with some degree of familiarity with this Vaudry and his plans for the city.
We have done work for the Vaudrys once before, a long time ago, but we don't have the same kind of relationship with them that we did with the Laventhorpes. I am very, I guess, suspicious that William's intentions are as good as he is, claiming. Especially since we know that some of the Vaudrys, at least one that we know of, was a member of the cult of Sirik. It is possible that this animosity towards the richer individuals of the town is also an animosity towards those who use magic. And I don't think it would be a very friendly mayoral race if someone was to run against him. I think there's a lot more at stake here.
So this is news to Demarcus, and he says, really, one of the Vaudrys you've confirmed to be a member of the cult of Sirik?
Well, yes. I mean, we caught him. I think he was taken by the town guards. There was a group of cultists a long time back that tried to burn us alive in a warehouse, and he was one of them.
Well, then perhaps you are inciting someone with the Laventhorpes here on the right side of this.
I don't want to claim to take sides yet.
Marcus,
Not until we figure out
kind
what's
of
going on.
like a little bit parentally and like you know better. And he says, you've already started to take sides, Izzy.
Yeah. I would like to know the truth, though. My loyalty to Miliardo is a bit built on the fact that he entrusted me with certain things, and that's important to me, but if we find out that he is the one that killed the Lockwaters and his father, that is not a side that I'm willing to be on.
I agree, but at this point, I don't know if any of this matters because I think we are already implicated in this enough such that we have to find the truth. Getting letters from the Vaudrys in the middle of their political speeches, and we're already a part of this.
Agreed. Especially if the Vaudrys, I guess, are aware of how we are intertwined with this issue with the cult.
If the Vaudrys are connected with the cult of Cyric, then I would very much like to learn more about them.
Well, I don't know if it is very safe for you to still be out on the town, but it might be possible for us to go to the jail and speak to Miliardo and hear a bit more of his testimony. Otherwise, we could, I guess, find the town guard maybe and see whatever happened to that Vaudry that was captured.
That Vaudry that we knew that was a part of the cult?
Yes, you remember when we were with Quolaman and they tried to trap us? Yeah.
Well, wasn't he killed though?
Oh,
remember.
maybe.
He was definitely killed.
Yeah, I panthered him to death.
Were all of them killed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright, never mind then.
But good old Arith.
More prisoners.
What?
We need to take more prisoners.
Yep.
I think that's a lesson we've learned many times over.
Just to be clear about this story you're telling me that the other day at the Lizard Thick, it was not the first time that you guys have been tried to be burned out of a building by the cultists?
No, that was the second time. The first time, it almost did not go very well for us. It was much closer to us all being burned alive.
Well, fuck me.
Yeah. We don't have very good luck with cultists. But, you know, they're not the best to have around anyway. So, there's that.
Yes, we shouldn't let them, scare us into not investigating them just because they've tried to burn us. We've
Wouldn't be
survived
the
so
first
far.
time.
So, should we go to the jail and speak to Miliardo, or maybe just back to the guild and speak with Marin? He might have an update for us, since we gave him the letters, and he was going to look into some things for us.
I should stay at the guild as much as possible. I think if their squad goes into a situation where they're, for example, speaking with the Vaudrys, I may accompany them, stay outside, hiding in obscurity in the street, and if their squad ever gets into any trouble, just send me one of your messages, Izzy, and I'll try to break in and do what I can.
I think that's, fair, though Marin may have a way for you to be disguised. But whatever makes you feel safest, obviously. I think we should go to dinner, though, and try to get some information.
You should. I definitely shouldn't be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll probably stay with DeMarcus on this one. We're a bit involved with, the gangs here, and I don't need that getting mixed up with the noble houses, so it's probably best if I don't make an appearance either.
Yes, Johoff and I will maybe get those tattoos. What day is the dinner?
Tonight.
Ah, well. And you should go without us, but careful, Izzy. Don't be manipulated. They're gonna want you to either give them information or to be on their side in an impending war.
I would not give them information. Or try to be on their side. I will just try to observe and stay neutral.
They will try to force you to.
She looks frustrated, but just kind of nods.
DeMarcus gets it. He lets it go.
Okay, so you're going to the guild?
I suppose.
Alright, let me find it. Where you at?
I'll go along an observer token, but I think Joe would probably go to the Lee Wind.
Okay. Should we do the Lee Wind scene first, or did you just want to like play that out later?
Yeah, whichever, whatever works. I mean, he's got some stuff he wants to talk to Big Pete about. Yeah, however you want to do that, that's fine with me.
Okay. Let's go to the guild first then. Okay. Yeah, not all these people are here. But yeah, that is about right. Let me put Taryn on there. Alright, I think that's everybody. We good?
I think so.
Okay. So, you guys show up to the guild. I don't know why this is so quiet. And you find Marin discussing, having a discussion between Arvine, Evander, and this woman Lyra, who's in these dark blue robes that has her hood up. Who seems to be, it seems like she is the one instructing them on certain things, while the rest of them listen very closely. And as you come in, Marin like holds up a hand to her apologetically, and then walks over to you guys kind of slowly, and says, "I believe your mission was a success. Welcome back, Taryn."
Thank you, Master Marin. I'm glad that they were able to come and save.
And with that, you see Evander run over, and he's like, "Taryn, you lived! You survived! You did it! Tell me everything about a green dragon."
Taryn like perks up when Evander comes over to him, and like he has to like start a couple times before being like, yeah, I definitely will.
Are they more like the ones from Master Ikathon's book, or are they much more like Master Zenithar's book? I mean, which one really encapsulates the spirit of the Green Dragon for you?
He has kind of like a blank look for a second, kind of stutters about like not knowing which one's which.
Oh, yeah. Well, have you not read those yet? I thought I loaned them to you. That's okay. We'll get to that later. It's just good to have you back.
It's good to be back, Master Evander.
I have to go, but we'll talk in class. And then he, like, gives you a thumbs up and walks back to Lyra. And Marin kind of stands patiently in front of you and says, "Yes, well, I believe you have heard the news from William Vaudry concerning the political situation in the city. It's moving around very quickly now.
Yes, we were just at the rally, as chance would have it, and he gave Isolda a letter, and he wants to meet with Bear Squad over dinner tonight. What do you think about this?
Very troubling, considering how much is happening so quickly. But, I don't imagine any harm will come to you if that is your question. Perhaps it's best to go and figure out exactly what it is that he wants, but I think I already know what he wants.
What do you think he wants?
To be the mayor of the city.
Well, yes, but like for political power, or do you actually think he is concerned about the citizens?
It's not entirely clear if there's a line delineating either two options. It's entirely possible that he wants both.
Sure, you're aware that Bear Squad uncovered evidence that at least one of the Vaudrys was involved with the cult of Cyric, so I think it may be wise to keep in mind that if the Vaudrys take power, they may be connected to the cult, which is trying to gain access to the lower regions of the guild.
Yes, that sounds right. Well, we should, keep that in mind.
No, other information has come to light about Miliardo or the arson of the manors?
No, I've informed Guard Captain Damien about your found letters. He awaits a discussion with you in at the city hall. So if you have time, you should probably go see him to discuss. I have not told him the contents, though I have informed him that it is very important and may prove vital in proving Miliardo's innocence.
Alright, one other question. In the letters, Miliardo says that the two younger brothers of Aaron had gone missing. Obviously, before Aaron or her father were killed. Were those bodies recovered?
No, in fact, that's still part of the major puzzle that we're trying to figure out here. I believe finding where those brothers went to, or if they're still alive, would prove to be a very important piece of this case.
It's just that William Vaudry was addressing the crowd of the citizens, and he mentioned that Miliardo was accused of killing the whole Lockwater family. And I feel like if there's no bodies of the other brothers, that is quite a stretch to convict him of those deaths that may not have even occurred.
Yes, the investigation is trying to determine if Miliardo had anything to do with them. They suspect that he did, that he was responsible for all of them. If it is the case that Miliardo was trying to eliminate all of his competition, including his own father, then killing off all of the members of the Lockwater family would have been requisite for doing so.
It just doesn't make sense to me, Master Marin. If Miliardo wanted power, the Lockwaters had kind of been discredited and had lost seats on the council. Why go after the Lockwater family and not the Vaudrys? Or it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, even with their diminished power on the council, the Lockwaters were still of equal, at least, power to the Vaudrys. So it would make sense for them to administer the death blow, so to speak. But yes, it does not quite add up to me either. It seemed like Miliardo was politically outmaneuvering his opponents without murdering them.
Right. Well, we will go and speak to Captain Damon. And then I suppose we will attend the dinner at the Vaudry's house, though I must admit I'm very nervous.
Well, you can always send me a message if something goes wrong. The guild is always here to protect the members of the guild.
Right. Of course. And thank you, Master Marin, for keeping these things on hold while we did what we needed to do in the woods.
Anything to see Terran back in these halls. And he kind of nods at Terran and smiles.
Marcus interjects and he says, "In that respect, Grandmaster Marin, your friend Missile over here was quite adept at, I don't know, deconstructing the dragon. We have the dragon's skull, and we would like to send it to the Norsemen on the island in order to, I suppose, finalize our relationship with them. Do you have any good way for us to do that?"
It's funny that you ask that. We were recently going to approach you about something concerning that island. You mentioned briefly in your discussion of your work there that you closed a portal to a fire elemental plane.
Yes?
Yes, we did.
Well, it's very possible that that very portal, or at least that location, could be opened once again, and that we could use it. Lyra here has explained to us how it works, and, well, it's entirely possible that in the near future we won't have to take a ship to get to Gunderlin.
Wait, the portal that was on the island, I thought went to another plane, the fire plane.
Yes, well, not originally. Originally, it came here.
Oh,
Where here?
Somewhere on the 6th floor of this building.
oh,
What magic is capable of reorienting a portal in that way?
It's not quite that. It appears that in a place where portals have been configured, if they are disabled and then something happens in the area, say some sort of cataclysmic magical event, another portal can open up in the same place. We believe that's what happened in this fire temple you speak of. Something to do with it being in the heart of a volcano and all that.
I mean, it makes sense that that would happen.
Yes, well, anyways, it's as simple as reopening the portal on the other side. The problem is that we would have to find somebody capable of utilizing portal magic to go to the other side and perform a certain ritual. So we will maybe have to task somebody with taking a boat out there.
Vosner looks very happy at the prospect of potentially going back to that forest. And he says, well, if you need anyone to help escort folks back over there, I'll be happy to go.
Wonderful.
Agreed. Perhaps we can take the dragon skull there ourselves at that time.
Of course, yes. Alternatively, if you know any of the Norsemen on that island who are capable of such magic, then perhaps they could do it for us. It's entirely possible to explain the ritual or the message of sending.
Is Isola able to like send a message to like anybody she's met, or does there have to be some sort of like prerequisite condition?
It's anybody that she's ever met.
Okay. Because didn't that Catalonian woman know how to do portal
Mhm.
magic. I forget her name.
Mhm. Yeah.
Although she may be unwilling to open a portal for guild members to just cross whenever.
Um, it is something that I could speak to Katari about, but they might be hesitant, considering the conflict between the Kitolonians and the Norsemen. It seems a little strange to, I guess, allow your enemies more allies.
I believe you are most likely correct, but it seems a relatively low-cost opportunity, contrasted with sending several members on a multi-day journey to communicate with the Gunderland people again.
Yes, I will think about it then, and maybe how best to phrase it to her, or make sure that it is something that would benefit her people. Um, for reasons of my own, I don't want to inadvertently give the Norsemen any more power over the Kitolonians.
I understand, but I don't exactly understand why you would think this enables them to get more power. It would only secure a teleportation between the guild hall here and the island itself. One that only a certain group of people could move between.
And it would be, well, I guess it would be difficult to ask her to go to Gundbarg to open the portal there. It would not be very safe for her. So I guess the question is whether or not the guild would want a portal on the Kitolonian side of the island.
The portal can only be opened in the location where the portal was closed.
Oh, okay. Well then... Okay. I will think about it. Maybe when my head is less full of other things.
Of course.
And
It is not of
yes.
pressing importance. The other locations of the portals is something that we're working on currently.
Alright.
Marcus jumps in and he says, yes, and speaking of those other things, I'm sorry to keep you, Grandmaster Marin, because I know you have many important things going on. And he glances at Lyra Talinas and recognizes her as the crazy, powerful woman who helped him. He asks Marin, given that, of course, my situation is precarious, and also given that Bear Squad seems to be getting involved in the politics of Mossstone, it's not a good idea for me to be seen with Bear Squad any more than I have to be in the streets of Mossstone. It's of course possible for me to stay here until I'm needed, say in combat or outside of the city. But do you know of any good way for my identity to be concealed while I'm, say, on the streets of Mossstown, if I were to accompany Bear Squad on any missions?
He smiles, and before you even finish, he knows kind of what you're asking for, and he's just kind of like rummaging around in like the like secret pockets of his robe, and then he pulls out a ring that's gold and then like has silver kind of like inlaid in it. It's very pretty, and he comes and puts it in your hand, and this here should take care of you. Please do return it. It is an old heirloom of mine. And it's a ring of disguise self.
Okay.
It's
Marcus bows deeply and he says, I will make sure that this ring gets back to you no matter what. Thank you.
Very well. And then he hands back the letters that he took from you before to Isolde. He says, I trust you will use these wisely.
Of course.
Well, if there's nothing else, then I must return to my discussions.
Alright, thank you for your help.
Okay. And you guys go into the barracks? Or what?
I don't know if I need anything particular from the barracks. But I would be all about going to the city hall.
Okay. I'm gonna send you to the barracks real quick, and then we'll go to the city hall.
Okay.
Okay. Boodle-doo. As you guys walk into the barracks, let's see if I have everybody's token. I'm missing DeMarcus.
And Taryn.
And Taryn. As you guys walk into the barracks, you see Haeza kind of rifling through his things and packing up his bag.
Are you going somewhere?
He looks up at you as you walk in, and he kind of like half smiles and goes, I have received an offer of employment that fits my skills and dispositions better. So I will be leaving the squad at least for a while.
Oh. Alright. Do you want your share of the gold from the dragon then?
I would appreciate that, yes.
Alright. She looks kind of put off by the fact that he's leaving, but...
Yeah, DeMarcus kind of steps up near Isaiah, actually, in front of everyone, and he says, yes, it will be very important that Isaiah has some resources to get around, because for a refugee, life in Tether is not easy, let alone for a refugee from Kalimsham. And DeMarcus says to you, Isaiah, he says, I'm sorry that... Thank you for all the help that you've given us. I understand that it's been difficult, but you know probably better than I that your life here will be especially hard given the political situation and your status as a refugee, and I wish that I could help you with that somehow, but right now I can't. But if you ever hear word that the reputation of DeMarcus Sunspire has been returned, and that he's once again a member of the Queen's good court and accepted back into the noble families of Daramar, I hope that you will use our friendship together in order to maybe help you out of hard times. You are more than welcome, if I ever regain my honor, to tell anyone that I'm a friend of yours, if it ever would help you.
Hayes smiles and thanks you for that, and kind of like chuckles to himself and says that I grew up in the slums of Kalimshan. I don't think I will ever run into anything in my life as hard as my childhood.
Marcus smiles and he says, I believe that you won't need my help, but I could give you at this moment anyways. Good luck to you.
And you too. And then he kind of like walks out of the room, and like as he's leaving, he turns to Damon and tosses him his 5 guild coins because he doesn't need them anymore, and says to Damon, sorry I beat you at those dice.
I will look forward to a rematch one day. I am touched.
Hayes takes his leave and says that if they do need his skills at some point in the future, to send him a message. And then he heads out.
I just kind of call out after him to stay safe. Well.
When I do that, Stan, can you still see? Sorry. Because you have Taryn on the screen?
Yeah, I can still see.
Okay, thanks, sorry.
Nice.
Missile looks at you guys, and you realize that he looks really sleepy. And he just says, "Well, that's it for me. I'm pooped. I'm gonna get a nap in. So have fun doing whatever you're doing, because frankly, I'm tired."
I turn to him real fast. Well, before you go, could I get the dragon skull for a half second?
And he like already is asleep on the bed, like totally passed out.
Nice.
Vosner sighs a little dejected, and he's like, well, I guess I'll wait for him to wake up, I suppose.
Well, we have a dinner invitation, so that might have to wait.
DeMarcus has put the ring on, and you like glance up at him, and he looks like slightly different. He's not totally different, not like another person, just like mutated a little bit, changed, different.
His jaw's a little bit more defined, and he's a little. His hairline isn't as receded, like it's a little fuller. There's no gray in it.
Terran, while we're doing this, puts the dragon claw he took into his chest. And we have access to his 4,000 gold that he had in his chest as the last banker.
Yeah!
Woo!
You can throw it in the group loot if you'd like.
Nice.
Boom.
Vosner turns to Isilda and says that, and sort of out loud to the rest of the group, well, as fun and as exciting as a night of nobles sound, I don't know if have my heart in this as everyone else does. As you know, that there's quite a bit of druids that are up in arms that I feel like I need to look into. Again, connected to the city humans, and if the city humans are connected to these larger things that we're seeing, I feel like my skills would probably be better served there. So I may not go to dinner tonight, but see what's going on with that.
Sorry to hear that, but I understand.
Are you going in person to where the conflict is?
I may stop and visit with our local druids and see if anything has arisen. But of course, I'll let the masters know. I just wanted to let you know where I would be. And I feel like I need a little bit more of a break from these really complicated city events. I don't know if I'm very effective in it with you all.
All right.
For my part, you don't need to leave just because the politics aren't present. I know that they aren't. But you're more than welcome to stay, because in the off chance that something goes badly, you are very, very valuable to us.
Osner takes a second to think. Well, I don't know. If you just GM, how long is it to the dinner?
So you guys got in kind of like, let's say 4-ish, and now it's 5, and it seemed like it was like a late dinner, like 8 or 9.
He's like, well, let me talk with my master for a second, and I'll come back with my response. I guess I haven't made up my mind yet, but of course, I'll let you know, one way or another. And I'll excuse myself, and I'll go and find
Tetherman?
Master Druid. Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Scene for that. Let's save that scene for a second. You guys want to discuss anything else?
Nope. Izzy just looks super uncomfortable that everyone is suddenly splitting up.
Well, you know what they say. Split up the group.
Yep.
Isn't that what they say?
Fantastic.
Always split the group. Okay. Yeah, then I guess let me load the upper level of the guild. Do I even have that? Yeah. And then I'll just drop all of you there, and then I'll have Terran over here, and... Okay. Ooh. You do not own a token with vision on this scene? That doesn't sound good. Oh, not Terran.
Yeah, I just got a black screen. Got it now.
Yeah. Woof! Alright, I think we're good. But man, is it laggy. Whoa, alright. Bosner's running around like a madman. Can you actually see, or you just...
I can actually see, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you come upstairs and you find Tetherman just kind of standing around near his office.
Nice. Okay. And I say, it's good to see you again, Master Tetherman. Feels like it's been quite a while.
Likewise. Yes, I don't believe we've talked much since you found that construct in the sewers.
Yes. And I feel a little bit unrooted, if it were, especially with the complications in the cities and the city humans and their schemes. Seems like everything is very complicated.
Indeed. Didn't you just spend 4 days in the woods, though?
Yeah. It was wonderful.
Yes. I would imagine so.
Seems like everything has gotten worse. The one thing that is quite concerning to me is that it feels like our little squad of however many is getting more and more entangled of it. I feel like it might be a distraction from the bigger picture.
Well, it's entirely possible, but sometimes it's the little things that prove most important when the crisis, whatever it may be, befalls us.
Well, I guess one of the little things that I guess is not at the forefront of their minds is the situation with the Druid uprising. Has there been any news with that?
Yes. The squad tasked with that experienced some difficulties. They have returned with some success, but there were lives lost, and the group has since disbanded.
Oh wow.
Yes, in fact, the guild is beginning to close down its application process, and it's no longer administering new groups. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but some sort of notification will eventually reach you. Some sort of statement from Master Marin.
So we'll no longer have new adventuring parties. I understand that.
Yes, as it stands, the interests of the guild are beginning to grow more complicated and more dangerous, and frankly, newer groups are just not capable of handling it.
Well, if there's any information that you can spare or anything that I can do related to the druids, I would be more than happy to help. I know that it was in connection with the nobles in some sort of way, and if the nobles of Mostone are connected, then somehow the cult might have its fingers in it. But anything that I can do. I did want to let you know that after we slayed the dragon, it seemed that the druid Glen began to heal. And if there's some sort of broken relationship that needs mending, especially with the druids, perhaps I could lead them there and maybe begin something. Maybe to bring that ancient place back.
Well,
Preserve what's going on there.
it's entirely possible that we could bring back that glade and restore it to its original power, but the restorative power of the death of a green dragon is a well-known and normal phenomenon in the forest. It's sort of part of the life cycle of the forest, in fact, and that's why, as druids, we don't tend to be too upset about the inhabitants of a green dragon. All life returns to the cycle, and the green dragon has a tendency to bring flourishing in its wake, despite its terrible and destructive capacities.
Well, yes, of course, everything in balance.
Indeed.
I was just thinking, since the green dragon was no longer there, there's space, at least for something to happen there.
Right. This is very true. An ancient seat of power for some druids may prove to be just the kind of place that some perhaps rogue druids would want to settle down. But as it stands, I believe the more difficult to deal with druids have been quelled for now, and perhaps they will not return. But it is a good thought. Thank you for sharing it. Is there anything else?
I guess, do you think it would be wiser to stick with the squad for this night of political gesturing?
Oh, well, I do not envy you, sitting at the table of a noble, but it is always best to stick together.
Yes. I guess that was the most wise thing. I guess I knew that was the right choice, but not terribly excited about it.
Sometimes we wait to hear it on the lips of someone we trust. before we believe it for ourselves.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry to have bothered you, Master.
Oh, it's no problem.
I will put on my best leaves for tonight.
I'm sure they will appreciate it.
Cool.
And you fucking stomp all over him. No. Sweet.
I wild shape into, and I do a cool little flip and unwild shape.
Sweet. Okay. So, is Tim back or no?
I'm back.
There he is. Did you want to do the scene at with Big Pete?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, let's go. Blah 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 blah. Where is this place? There it is. Delicious. Okay, the rest of you aren't in this scene, but I will leave your token there for vision, as is the usual. Tim, as Johoff walks into the room, he sees the kind of usual crowd, a couple of silver crabs kind of sitting in the corner, some Leventhorpe men sitting at the bar where they're drinking heavily, and Elvinor, the cleric, or priest, that heals people in the pits, is getting absolutely sloshed and has probably fallen asleep or passed out on the bar at this point. Down the way, you see Big Pete talking with Cass and another member of the Silver Crabs.
Yeah, I'm going to go over to Big Pete and ask to speak with him.
He says, "Hey, Johoff. Happy to see you. Seems like you've survived your trek into the, trees."
Yeah, well, maybe just to come back and die, who knows?
Yeah, perhaps.
You got a minute to speak in private?
Yeah, of course. And he leads you over here to his office. What can I do you for?
Yeah, well, got a couple questions. I've been out of town, as you know, and feel a little bit like maybe I don't have my bearings on myself, politically speaking. So, where are we with the whole government change here in the town?
Yeah, well, we're just figuring that out ourselves, but it seems like with Miliardo in chains, they held a city council vote, and, without him to vote against it, they voted to destroy the council itself, and to turn this here city into a democracy.
Yeah, well, where does that leave us, then?
Well, it's not entirely clear. Whoever wins that mayoral race may have, one agenda or another, and depending on that agenda, may come down hard on us, or may be, I don't know, a friend.
Right. We got any fingers in this election? Can we do anything to sway it?
Well, the Vaudrys have always been kind of a group for the lower people, so it's not entirely clear that we'd want to tip the scales. It seems like he's probably going to win anyways. But, I don't know. There's nobody else running yet.
Yeah, you should do it yourself, Big Pete. Big Pete for mayor, eh?
Yeah, pretty sure my reputation would precede me to a degree that would perhaps render me incapable of governance.
Yeah, well, that's probably just as well, right? Yeah, any new news on this, things between the rats and the cult there? Any ideas?
Yeah, nothing new. General, I don't know, discontent. The cultists are doing whatever they want, and the Crimson Rats are probably not enjoying the visuals, but to be honest, it doesn't seem like the town guard's been doing much against the cultists, so, you know. Guess maybe Crimson Rats are probably gonna just be fine anyways.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, you know, this group I've been spending some of my time with, right? This squad from up at the, you know, that uppity guild in the middle of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, one of them mentioned, kind of let slip the other day, that they had apparently discovered that one of the Vaudrys might have been part of this cult.
Wouldn't surprise me. Them nobles tend to get caught up in all sorts of superstitious bullshit.
Yeah, well, anyway, some kind of piece of information to keep in mind depending on what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, it's good to know. Well, maybe William Vaudry's gonna have to work harder to earn my vote. We'll see how it goes. But unless anybody runs against him, then I think it's a sure thing that he'll win.
What do you think? Old Joe off for mayor then, if Big Beat's not going to do it?
Yeah, they like your tats. You'll look like a right proper nobleman up there in your shiny ink.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. Right, so I guess, you know, last question then, yeah, also I mentioned a little bit unsure of how things stand politically between us and the rats these days, so I think tomorrow's my fight, and I don't want to mess anything up, so I guess my question is, you want the guy I fight to leave on a stretcher or in a body bag?
Well, the crowd would prefer the body bag, but honestly, given the tensions, perhaps a stretcher would be the best solution. Though I'm not sure he'll spare the same sort of niceties for you.
Yeah, well, that's what makes us all nice and moral people, don't it? You know? Better than our enemies or whatnot. Or some bullshit like that.
That's
Well, I
right.
guess if that's what you want, I'll exercise some restraint. Can't say I'll enjoy it, though.
Well, I mean, accidents happen, so, you know, don't stress yourself out too much.
Yeah, we'll see then. Alright, well, hey, thanks. Be safe. Scary times out there in this town.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're the moral upstanding crime syndicate, so, you know, good karma and all that.
Yeah, sure, something like that. You gonna come see me fight?
Of course, wouldn't miss it for the world.
Right, well, if I live through it, I think you owe me a couple balls, right?
Right.
Alright, take care.
Joe off.
Yeah, what?
Don't you, go dying on me. I'm gonna put a lot of money on you.
Yeah, well, I have no intention of dying, and I have every intention of making you a very wealthy man.
Yeah, I know. And with that, do you leave?
I'm out.
Nice. All right. Does anybody? All right. So it's 5 o'clock. Do we want to do one more scene, or do people need to go, or what's up?
Let's go fight a dragon.
Yeah. Roll for initiative. There's a dragon in this inn.
Yeah. I'm ready.
I'm good for anything. I can stay, I can go, whatever.
Yeah, same. I'm enjoying
What?
Yeah, there he is.
I can do maybe another scene or something like that.
Okay. So would Johoff be like rejoining the group, or is he going to be kind of doing his own thing now, or how do you want to play that, Tim?
Well, I think he and DeMarcus, at least last they talked, kind of agreed to, like, I don't know, hide in the trees outside of the Vaudry's Manor or some shit.
Okay.
So you'd probably go try to find DeMarcus,
Oh, okay.
who now no longer looks like he did last time we saw him. So I don't know how that
Right. Right. He's got to find a guy he's never seen. Perfect. That old game. Did you guys want to go straight to the dinner, or were you going to the city hall, or what was the plan there?
To the city hall, I think. At least that
Okay.
was my intention.
City hall it is.
Does it smell like envelope blue?
So are DeMarcus and Johoff there or not? Just for reference.
No. Wait, what place is this?
This is the city hall.
Oh, City Hall. No, I think DeMarcus is still not gonna go out because that ring works super slowly, so he still looks a lot like Marcus. So I think he's gonna wait it out.
Okay. So we'll just say the four of you then show up. Isolde, Taryn, Vosner, and Damon show up at City Hall, and there's these giant gates. You notice that the City Hall basically functions as kind of a catch-all. It's the City Hall, but it's also like the barracks for the guards. It's where the jail is located. I mean, it's a pretty multi-purpose thing, and you come through these very intense-looking barred gates and into this courtyard where you find Guard Captain Damien kind of waiting for your presence. And when he sees you, he says, "Bear Squad, hello. Welcome to City Hall."
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. I heard from Master Marin that you had spoken with him.
Yes, he informed me that you have some letters that, aid in Miliardo's plight.
We believe that they would aid, at least enough to establish that there is some doubt that he would be the one to have killed the Lockwaters.
Very well. I guess present me the information and I will look over it.
Can I roll an insight check on him?
Go for it.
Is he a dirty cultist?
Yep, he looks to be above board.
Okay, I look a little bit nervous, but I'll go and hand the letters to him.
He notices your apprehension and says, "Believe me, this evidence will be cared for. You do not have to worry about it being tampered with."
I appreciate that. It's not that I don't trust you. It is hard to know whether or not things will be intercepted, and I will warn you that we have already been attacked once for these letters. So...
Attacked?
Yes. By cultists.
When was this?
A few days ago.
And you didn't report it to the city?
Well, no. It was handled at the time. As part of our business.
Okay. And this handling, does it have anything to do with the city block of the foreign district that was burned to the ground?
That was not our doing, but the cultists' doing.
In the process of you handling it?
Well, I suppose, yes. We did not know that they were going to burn down the building we were inside. But, yes.
Very well. Well,
Seems
I
that
need some
they,
time to look over these letters. I believe you've come to see Miliardo then?
Yes, if that's permitted.
Yes, follow me. And, oops. He leads you over this way into the courtyard. As you're walking through the courtyard, you see that there are like these steep, very it's like a two-story building, very strong stone garrison. Out in the courtyard, there are horses and people tending to them, and some guards. You see, discussing with another guard. It seems like they're maybe doing a little bit of sparring. This man in a full set of armor who you saw on the docks the other day. And as you walk by, the man in the armor kind of salutes Guard Captain Damien. And you guys continue walking this way, where he leads you to a stairwell that leads down below the city hall. He says, "This is the jail. Come with me." Do you guys go down?
Yep.
Okay. And it's loading. You descend some steps into a very dark, kind of like not so clean jail. You get the feeling that this place isn't well cared for. Mostone probably doesn't have a lot of prisoners, and the ones that they do get are probably executed or dealt with fairly quickly. So you don't get the vibe that this is like a long-term place for a lot of people. Guard Captain Damien leads you down the stairs. Two guards flank on either side of you, and he brings you over to this door, and he looks at the guard, and the guard hands him a key, and he unlocks the door and opens it for you and says, feel free to discuss anything you need to with Miliardo. I will be upstairs when you're done. The guard here will see to locking it after you've left. And he leaves.
I will step inside.
When you step inside, you see a very kind of disheveled and emaciated Miliardo. He looks like he may have been beaten a little bit for information. He looks like he's not been taken well care of at all, and he looks like he may have been crying a fair amount.
I will take some, rations or dried meat or whatever I have on me and offer some to him and some water.
He looks up. He doesn't look up until you get very close, even with the food. And when he sees you, he says, "Where have you been? Your message was days ago. I thought you were killed."
We were not, obviously, but it has been a bit of an ordeal. We did find your letters, though, and we are doing our best to create some doubt of your guilt in order to give you a proper trial or a chance to be seen as innocent.
When? I mean, it's been 3 days.
I'm not sure when. For the last 3 days, there was another issue threatening a member of the party, and we told Master Marin to make sure that you were not killed in the meantime and kept safely here and well guarded. So I'm not sure when a trial will occur, or really if one will occur, but we are trying our best.
Yes, well, for that you have my thanks, but I didn't know any of this. I hadn't heard from you in 3 days. I figured somebody had already gotten to you, killed you, or bribed you, or whatever it takes. I'm afraid I don't have many allies left in this city.
I do apologize for the silence. I only have a limited amount of magic, so I can't always send messages, but I had hoped that after we spoke to Master Marin that he would at least let you know that we would be gone for a couple of days, but I'm sorry if that was not the case. But as far as updates go, I will try to keep you more updated about what we are doing. At the moment, it is just using the letters that we were able to recover to show that you did not have much of an alibi to create these murders or fires. But I think probably our best bet will be to find who actually did them.
Yes, indeed. Have you figured out anything concerning that?
I was wondering actually if you had thoughts on that. Who would benefit the most from seeing you locked up or killed?
Well, there's always the other noble families. But, yes, the people who have been gunning for me for the longest have been the Lockwaters, and, if they're all dead, as the guards seem to think they are, then I guess the Vaudrys. But, I don't see what the Vaudrys would have to gain. If the Lockwaters and myself are gone, then I suppose they have supreme rule over the council, but not for long. They are not a very wealthy family, and somebody will come and replace me.
Well, there are some complications to that.
What do you mean?
The Vaudrys are moving to disband the council, or at least remove themselves from the council, and instead become elected by the people into a singular position of power.
What?
Yes, it was just announced this afternoon.
And you can see him, like, slump down and, like, kind of do some calculations in his head, and you can tell that he is just, like, completely overcome with despair.
Don't think that we are finished looking into this or anything. If we can find some evidence that maybe the Vaudrys were involved, I don't think that people would elect an individual that committed these kinds of murders.
The people will elect whoever they're told to elect. This is why democracies always fail. And then he's like putting his hands in his hands over his face, and he's just like kind of like completely in despair. And yeah.
I go over to him and I kneel down and I say, "Friend, what do you know of the cult activity among the noble families? If this is connected to anyone, I feel like the cult seems to be the disease that's rotting everything out."
I've been telling everybody I don't know anything about the cult. I've been accused of being a member of this cult myself. I don't know anything about the cult.
Well, we just know that one of the Vaudrys in the past, well, one of the nobles we encountered in the past was a cultist, and he was from the House of Audrey. So, if there was any rumors or whispers that you've heard of that could point us in the right direction, I think that would be the most helpful. Because everything seems a little bit too convenient that this cult is supported by this noble house, which is trying to wrest a bunch of power under a single person in a city. I have a feeling that many people will get hurt, and they'll look very expendable in the eyes of others. So anything would probably be helpful, or if you know of anyone who would know. And of course, you've treated us very well and with much kindness and grace. So we, of course, would want to get you out of here. But we're just looking for another thread to pull.
Yes, I don't exactly remember what your question was, but I'm sure there might be clues at my estate where my father was found. They claim that they found evidence of cult paraphernalia in my quarters, but I promise you that it was not there. I did not put it there, and I've never worn it, and I've never participated in anything regarding the cult. I believe somebody must have placed it there, and if you could find evidence that it was placed there, then I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that you could do such a thing.
Well, that is better than nothing. So we'll definitely have to look into that.
If William Vaudry has dissolved the city council, then that means that whoever becomes mayor of this city will gain all of the power, all of the wealth, and all of the material left behind by the Lockwaters. Since there is no heir to their estate, all of it will be liquidated and given to the city. And the mayor will be able to choose whatever they want to do with all of that. And if I am executed, since there are no further members of the Leventhorpe estate, then that also will all go to the city. So, you must act quickly. If I am gone, and the Vaudrys take over, then there's little that they won't be able to do.
Speaking of the Lockwaters, in your letters you said that the two sons of Lockwater Senior had disappeared. Was that before we set off for Gundberg?
Yes, the brothers had left, as far as she told me, as far as Aaron told me. And you can tell he's looking like a little bit just disheartened thinking about Aaron. And he says, she said that they left suddenly and withdrew a large sum of money from the bank and just vanished. If you could find them, then perhaps that would also help me in my cause.
Yes, I think that is probably one of our better leads.
Also, if you could speak to the bank and get a record of that withdrawal, then perhaps we could prove that that they were off doing something, that they were not that I didn't do anything to harm them.
Right. Well, we will try our best. And I guess we will do our best. And I will try to reach out to you and keep you updated on how things are going.
Of course. If there's anything you need, just don't hesitate to come back and ask. I'm not going anywhere. And he kind of cracks a smile at you. And then he says, if you need to get into the Leventhorpe Manor, you can find my gardener at the King's Ransom. It's a very nice bar up here in Uptown, and well, she's there, and if you tell her that I sent you, then she will help you get into the premises.
Perfect. All right. In the meantime, you can, I guess, have these, and she produces the little bits of food and dried rations and stuff that she has. It looks like they're not maybe feeding you so well.
Yes. They have not been kind. And as you're kind of close to him, he says, Isolde, if you find out who killed Aaron, I will pay you a very large sum of money if you bring me their head.
I look like a little bit pale, but just kind of nod and move away.
And he takes the food and starts eating it, gratefully.
Alright, she kind of just nods at him again and steps out of the cell.
As you're walking out of the cell, the guard next to you winks at you, and you can tell it's Master Zook from the guild. And then he winks, and then after he's done winking, he looks like the guard again.
I crack a small smile and just kind of keep walking and try not to draw attention to it.
And as all of you leave the cell, he locks it again with the key. Oh yeah, he's not here anymore. And what do you guys do?
Just a second, I gotta quickly scribble down some notes.
Yeah, there's a lot of notes to take, though we are recording,
I've
so...
been doing it, yeah.
Do we fight the dragon that's in this scene?
I know. Not a combat session. Just 4 hours of roleplay.
I love it.
Um,
Alright, Nothing in particular here, unless I can run back into Damon on my way out. But if he's off examining the letters, then I'll leave him be.
Captain Damien?
Yes, Damien, sorry.
Yeah, no, you find him out in the courtyard. Did you want to do a full thing with him or just a short thing?
I just wanted to ask him if he had looked at the letters.
He just hasn't yet. He hasn't had time.
Yeah. Alright, I just thank him and say that we will return another day.
He says, very well.
And yeah.
And, yeah. What's the next thing you guys wanted to do?
Probably the dinner, but I don't know if we have time for that.
Okay. Who all is Johoff and DeMarcus both going to the dinner as well? I'm gonna guess.
Joe Hoff will probably, I don't know, he'll chat with the group about it. I mean, he's definitely uncomfortable with the thought of going there, just because of his affiliations in the town. He doesn't know how much the Vaudrys know. So, I mean, he'll chat with the group about it. He'd prefer not to go and just to be, like, hanging out outside, maybe. But it'll depend on what DeMarcus does and what the group thinks.
DeMarcus and Johoff have taken to prowling around outside of wherever the rest of the group is, in the shadows and the alleyways. It depends on your decision about how quickly this ring kind of will work.
Yeah, it works. It's good to go now.
Okay. Yeah, then he would totally go to the dinner then, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Joe Hoff's a disguise kit, so yeah, he might be able to.
Okay, yeah. We'll say he disguise kits himself then. To puts on one of those mustaches.
How he does that, yeah. Tell me more.
Yep, give me the visuals.
Well, for one thing, he puts on a shirt for the first time since you've seen him.
He puts on a shirt, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Disguise kit is a shirt.
It's so he's a pretty big guy, so it's definitely kind of looks like when like The Rock tries to wear a shirt and it just like looks uncomfortable on him. He clearly is not good at it. He's got some like nice-ish clothes, but it looks like maybe these nice-ish clothes were from perhaps like a previous era, so there's like a little too much lace involved for him to really look natural in any of it. He like kind of applies some makeup and stuff to his face so that it looks like his cheekbones are a little bit higher and some of that kind of stuff, and tries to hide all of his tattoos. I think he's mostly recognizable by his tattoos, so long as he gets those covered, he should be good.
Okay. So, you guys all get together and head to the Vaudry's estate. And at the gate, one of the guards that you'd kind of seen at the talk, like, opens up the gate and lets you in. And you guys go up to the manor where you're led through kind of like a winding, very large mansion until you're led to this great hall where there is a very large table set with just a shit ton of food. Every type of food, and it looks amazing. And at the end of the table, you see William Vaudry, who says, "Welcome, Bear Squad. Thank you for coming." And that is where we'll end.
Oh, man.
Intrigue. Game of Thrones.
Big yikes.
Good, because, I mean, if we didn't end it there, we may have been so tired of RP that we would have just fucking killed everybody right away. I knew it was going to be an RP one though, and I was like clearly excited for that. That's what I knew.
Yeah. I love it.
Just turn into a giant gorilla. Start smashing everything.
Yeah, all right.
Polymorph,
Man.
because I have that as a 4th level spell now.
Sorry about our gorilla friend. He's really quite nice. Sorry.
No bananas.
Oof, what a session.
Yeah, you guys are getting into it now. This is the end game.
Or one of the games.
Oh shit! You guys are level 7. You're starting to become big players in this city.
Yikes.
That's pretty intense.
That was awesome. I mean, that was kind of what I expected. I expected it to be kind of like a big story RP session where like everything that was old gets kind of like solidified and framed, and then the whole next frame kind of takes over.
Yeah, I don't think I talked for the first hour and a half. So
We had so many good conversations, though.
no, totally, it
So
was
many
great.
notes.
I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, you were
Yeah, that
definitely
was
right,
awesome.
Matt. Like, a lot of stuff got